Yeah, this is Antonio Moore with YourBlackWorld.net and Voice Walking site, and I'm just coming to you with a conversation on the new actions from the Justice Department and Obama on mass incarceration and incarceration issue as a whole. I have a great guest today, Rick Ross, Freeway Rick Ross, who you all know came from the Iran-Contra and, with the Rick Ross rapper scandal. Just for full disclosure, I actually was a producer on Cracking the System, the documentary that was released on Al Jazeera on Rick's life, and just wanted to have a discussion on what he feels the impact is of Obama releasing these 6,000 prisoners. Rick, you want to say hello to the Your Black World audience?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Yeah, so, the Justice Department released over 6,000 prisoners here at the top of the month on November 2nd. Between the 30th and the 2nd, they released 6,000 prisoners, the largest single release of prisoners, and these are primarily people who were drug offenders who received harsh sentences. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm glad that somebody woke up and came up with some sensible policies of dealing with it.
Yeah, this is a first step. I mean, we can't sit up and say this is all we need, but this is definitely a big first step. And when you couple that with the actions by Obama's administration today, I think it's a strong first step to actually saying that we're going to confront this issue and make it a primary focal point. And just to give context to the audience, I mean, I think we always think we know about incarceration and we know it's bad, but I don't think we understand the gravity of how bad it is. One of the largest incarceration rates ever recorded was in South Africa. This is during apartheid, and it was like 840 per 100,000 for black men. Today, young black men are incarcerated at a rate of 10,000 per 100,000 in America. It's one of the highest recorded incarceration rates that we've seen in the modern world. And so we don't really talk about the impacts of that, not only on black males but black families as well. And Rick, you got any opinion on that?
Well, I mean, I've just experienced, and I've been experiencing it, my whole life, the racism that's involved in this supposed to be war on drug or getting tough on crime. A lot of times it's not the people who are committing the crime, but it's the people who are being targeted who are going to prison at alarming rates. And then when you get cops who don't look like you and don't feel that you're human, then they'll do unscrupulous things in order to make their convictions stick. Finding drugs in one place, but they know if they say they found it in that particular spot, it won't stick. So what they'll do is they'll take it and they'll put it to where they know a jury or a judge will accept it.
Yeah, and so moving back out to the larger scope of things, and when we really contextualize not simply just that statement, but the overall reality of black males being incarcerated and getting sentences that are much longer than any other group, we got to deal with the fact that while the U.S. has 2 million prisoners, almost 800,000 of them are black men, and we really aren't we aren't but 6% of the population. So if you look at just black male incarceration numbers, and I'm pulling up a chart right now that I'm showing, and you look closely, what you see is that India, Argentina, Lebanon, Canada, Japan, 9 countries, if you add their prison populations together, it comes up to 742,000 people incarcerated. So when you have those kind of numbers, you really got to look at this, not only in context of the moment, but also in context of history. These are people that were 100 years ago enslaved, 40 years ago unable to buy houses because of redlining, and now they're caught in a web of mass incarceration and start to question why these people. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I totally agree. That it should be criminal, some of the things that are happening. Cops pulling you over strictly because you're black. We got to do away with all that. I mean, we've pretty much lost our constitutional rights because of this war on drugs. Houses get searched. We get patted down at airports, and the list just goes on and on of all the illegal or unconstitutional things that go along with this war on drugs. So to hear that Obama has made the first step is really amazing. So
All
people
right.
are really waking up to this bogus war on drugs and the hysteria that they've been putting out on everybody.
So now, moving back to what you said about President Obama as we move into the second phase of the conversation. I mean, we have the release of these 6,000 prisoners, which in context of the overall number isn't huge. But it's just the measure of the message that the number of people isn't that large, but we've never seen a release of people at that number to signify that this is an issue by the Justice Department themselves. And what I was going to move to is the second part where we have this announcement, and you know, everybody, I'm going to put a link at the bottom, but today, this is an immediate release announcement that happened today where President Obama announced new actions to promote rehabilitation and reintegration for formerly incarcerated. And, you know, much of our system to this point hasn't dealt with that as much as it needed to. And you know, what Obama is proposing is adult reentry grants, you know, education grants, $8 million for that, arrest guidance for public and HUD housing, because so often our young men come out and they can't get assistance for housing, and that leads them right back to recidivism. And banning the box in federal employment where, you know, when you come in and apply for a federal job, they won't have the box of whether you committed a felony or not, and taking that off and giving them a chance to actually apply without bias to these jobs, expanded tech training for certain jobs, establishing a national clean slate clearinghouse. These are all things that we haven't seen, especially for a president that just visited prison to come out and make this statement. It's monumental, and I commend him. And what's your thoughts on it?
I think that he needs to be commended as well. But his people are keeping him up to speed on what's going on in society. I mean, when you have 2.3 million people incarcerated and another maybe 50 or 60 million that's been on parole or probation, that's a large population.
That is, man. And you know, we just gonna keep on pushing. We're gonna hope that, you know, this president in this moment doesn't get wasted. Black Lives Matter keeps on pushing, and that, you know, the Your Black World audience that hears this outside of this discussion gets motivated to do something in their own right, whether it be, you know, going down and visiting a family member, writing a letter to their local to their state level senator, or for that matter, just getting involved in the forum discussion online. Rick, I want to say thank you for having you on this call. Is there anything last bit you want to say to the Your Black World audience?
Yeah, well, all lives matter, but especially young black men right now, because I believe that they've been targeted like never before, like nobody has ever been targeted in this country. They've been made the scapegoat for all the problems that America's having, and I think that it's definitely a false statement. Thank you, everybody.
Definitely.
Also, they can follow me on Twitter, Instagram at Freeway Ricky, and don't forget to get the book and my new T-shirts. Peace.
Definitely. I definitely agree, Rick, and make sure you check out the piece, Black Male Incarceration Problem is Real and Catastrophic. It kind of like lays this dynamic out so that we really focus on this issue. Again, this is the YourBlackWorld.net site, and coming from Boyce Watkins. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen.